OSS is when your body's telling you one thing. Often the best outcome is when you do the opposite. You don't want to wash the dishes. Your compulsion is to sit on the couch, but you force yourself to wash the dishes. And what actually ends up happening is you feel much better about your clean kitchen when you do that. So I can't tell you the number of times that OSS, looking back, has played a part in sessions here. The best workouts I've often had at age 4 have been where it's 5 to 9, I'm crawling in, going, this is gonna suck. And then 5-6 minutes in, your body's amped and you're going, this is the best workout I've ever had.
H4 community, I am here today. We're talking all about real clients, real stories. And this is an opportunity for us to tell a story with one of our clients, a fellow H4 community member of you, their fitness journey. What was it like? What were the obstacles that they faced and how they continue to put fitness as a priority in their life? And today we're going to feature Phil Hardy. He's a client of ours at our Wheaton location. And you'll get to know Phil, maybe connect, maybe you'll find similarities to yourself. You can see how he got through obstacles that you might be facing. If anything, you get to know Phil a little bit. So here we go. Let's kick it off with Phil Hardy. Let's talk about your fitness journey. But before we get to that, let's have a little fun. Let's do a little bit of icebreakers. So I'm gonna get you with 3 quick hard-hitting questions and I want you to give your response, okay? So question number 1, if you could only eat at one restaurant the rest of your life, where would it be?
If I had to pick one, I would say Burger Bros in downtown Winfield.
Ah, okay, very cool.
Big cheeseburger fan.
Okay.
They're fantastic. Yeah.
Second question, if someone had to play you in a movie, a famous actor, who would it be?
I've joked about this in the past. I would say if Jack Black and Kevin Bacon maybe had a baby.
That's who it would be.
If I had to pick one, maybe I'd say Jack Black.
Okay, great choice. And then how about best place you've ever visited or just best trip you've ever been on?
You know, I don't have a ton of exotic travel in my life, so I would probably say either a trip to Michigan or to San Diego in the last several years. Both were fantastic.
Awesome. So there you go, a couple of quick hitters with our man Phil here. But now let's dive into why we have these videos, which is all about your fitness journey. So tell us, what has your fitness journey been like? Take us through.
Yeah, so I was pretty active in high school and was a high school athlete, not a very good one, but I ran track a little bit and I played a little bit of football and didn't realize until later in life that I wasn't very good really at either one, but I was active and I was really, really skinny until probably my mid-20s. I remember I hadn't seen some friends from high school in a long time and they had a party and I'd been on a blind date with my brother. My brother set me up on a blind date and afterward I went to this party to see some friends I hadn't seen in like a year. And I put on a bunch of weight and didn't realize I had, and they just gave me so much crap for it. And that was probably at 22 or 23.
Okay.
So classic sort of college 15 for me turned into a college 50. And then
I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that, right?
Yeah, and so really kind of yo-yo dieted from about my mid-20s into my mid-30s and had some success losing weight, and then would put the weight back on plus another 5 or 10 pounds. Wasn't doing a lot of resistance training or functional fitness training, was basically just fell in love with distance running. And so there was a period of about 2 years when I was a really consistent distance runner and had a lot of track and cross-country friends that I ran with. And I managed my weight really well for a couple of years then. And
so no resistance training or weights, just literally just running.
Yeah, maybe some sit-ups after a long run, but I ran a ton. I was at 50 or 60 miles a week for a couple of years and really fell in love with basically the spiritual side of running. And then that fell away and I got in really bad shape, I would say, from my 30s into my 40s. And I ran a half marathon in 2001, I think, so I was 31 then, and had gotten, again, kind of in good shape from that, still no resistance training. And then throughout most of my 40s, I just was slamming on weight. And I don't know how much detail you want, but at my heaviest, I was about 271 pounds.
Wow.
So,
And just so everyone knows, where are you at right now?
about 180, 177 to 180.
Crazy.
depending on the day.
270 to about 180.
Yeah. And so, the pandemic hit, and prior to the pandemic, I was heavy, and then basically a year at home, Netflixing and Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia every night for a year. You pay a price for that. And so, if you remember, I reached out to you and to Jordan. I don't remember who I contacted first, but Jordan, one of your lead coaches here, emailed you and just said, "I'm not vaccinated yet, so I can't come back to H4 yet, but can you help me?" And Jordan reached out and talked to you, and it started with one-on-one training a couple of days a week of functional fitness, and then came back to H4 and basically spent last year on this 4 to 6 day a week consistent fitness journey that included different classes and being here a couple days a week and being with Jordan a couple days a week, and then not eating like I lived in a frat house anymore. And those things together, and then really addressing the mental side of it, which I know you spend so much time trying to talk to clients about. So those three things probably together, plus some tough life experiences that happened over the last 2 years, are what probably drove this.
And I want to dive into the mental, but before that, what was the trigger to, because a lot of people watching might be like, I'm just not happy where I'm at right now. I don't like where I am. What was the trigger to be like, I got to freaking do something about this?
Yeah, I've been really sick. I got diagnosed with cancer about 3 years ago to the day, actually, to today, and got like a formal diagnosis on Memorial Day in 2019. And so, dealing with that for a couple of years, a pretty advanced, aggressive type of cancer, and then having to go through those treatments, surgery, radiation, and then hormone treatments for a couple of years. That I just kind of hit bottom and kept gaining weight because the treatment I was on, the oncologist warned me, like, when they manipulate your hormones like that, you just constantly want to eat. Well, I was already good at constantly wanting to eat, so it's like on top of that. Yeah, so I get home from work and just crash on the couch and eat like crazy. And I think I just hit rock bottom. And I had such a level of trust with you and with Jordan from my time at H4 that then it was like, as the new year came around in 2020 or 2021, was when I was like, let me just email them and see, because I didn't even know if you did that outside of the small group stuff. And so that's what started. It was really just, I think, hitting rock bottom. And then and the oncologist, my regular oncologist, telling me repeatedly at my appointments, if you can just get like a 3-pound weight and move it around, the research says that the side effects from the treatment will be a lot better. And so as I would go every 90 days for these follow-up visits, he just marveled at the improvement I saw, how I felt, how I looked. And it really is all a testament to you and to Jordan and what you all offer here. So that's really been my journey over the last 17 months. Has really been about growing up in the way I eat, watching my sugars, being really deliberate about exercise, walking whenever I can, taking deliberate walks, and then resistance training has been huge.
So what's been the big game changer in terms of mindset? Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that aspect of it.
Yeah, if you remember when I first started at H4, before I took a break when I got sick, I struggled. I mean, that's another big message, is like, it wasn't like this was this linear, easy thing for me. The first 6 months or so that I was at H4 and then I took a pause, I struggled in the workouts.
Taking those breaks, I think the cardio aspect, slowing down a little bit,
go to the blue turf and just walk.
Yeah.
And, but I think when I came back and when I got really serious about it, and it really felt like it was a make or break moment in my life, I would draw inspiration from the stuff you put on social and the stuff you put on the dry erase board. So I moved into a new house about 6 months ago, and I have a big dry erase board in my mudroom, and I write things, and I read a lot more, and I'm a lot more deliberate about the way I think. And then just, again, another shout out to Jordan and what you do, but Jordan was very good during our sessions about talking about the mental side of it and turning me on to a couple of podcasts, and all those things made that little sliver of difference, just that little competitive advantage. And then eventually, I think around the 10-month mark, I'd never been in a sustained period of fitness like that since I was 18 or 19 years old. And I think around the 10 or 11-month mark is when it really started to feel like new habit. And like I would more easily be able to turn away from things that used to tempt me in the past. So that's really been the arc of it. And it hasn't been easy, it hasn't been linear or perfect, but I feel so much better now than I did a year and a half ago. And there's been a lot of difficult stuff that's happened in my life. And this has been a critical part of my self-improvement and feeling better about my life, really.
And so talk to us maybe a little bit about those obstacles, because we know there's things that happen personally with your career. There's things that happen, you just get food in front of I mean, some days you're like, this is too hard. I don't want to go. I'm tired. How have you, well, first of all, what are those obstacles that came up for you that you want to share, and how did you get through those?
So I would describe myself as most of my adult life as being like a professional couch lover. Like you sit on the couch, you put on a show or sports, and you eat. It's kind of a cool hobby. I'm very good at that. And learning that was something that I had to disconnect from was a big part of it. And then obviously getting really, really sick, and not outwardly not looking sick, but having, a tough prognosis, and then the treatments that went with that, and reaching a point where it's like, okay, I'm 50. I don't want to live the rest of my life as the guy that is at parties and people are making fat jokes about. I mean, I was obese.
It was a realization.
Yeah, and I think I had tried in the past, but never had this combination. If you're familiar with the great movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he's alone on the island and he's trying to start the fire, and it's like, it's taking him forever, and he's hurting his hands, and he can't get it going. And then he figures out like this one manipulation of the spot to get enough oxygen to get the spark.
Just like that.
So I think all those combinations and trying and failing, and then finally it was like, okay, here it is. And anybody that's been through this knows that tomorrow I could be outside of a convenience store shoving fast food and Twinkies in my mouth again. But it feels like this is different. It feels like this is more permanent. And so, yeah, obstacles of being sick, obstacles of going through a separation and a divorce, and having to kind of restart my life in a lot of ways. The natural stress that comes at my job, right? So there was a lot more stress at work than I think I realized, and trying to manage stress better as part of that. All those things went into this kind of mix of unhealthy things that I had to resolve.
And was there
I've been very deliberate, very deliberate about trying to listen to people who've had success and seek advice and seek a therapist, and even paid for a physical therapist to try to fix some posture issues. And so I invested, that's another key point, is I invested deliberately a lot of money and time and energy into trying to figure this out.
And so while getting through these obstacles, what was there a point where you're like, wow, if I could get through this, which, I mean, get through cancer is about as big of an obstacle as you can. Was there a defining point where you're like, nothing's getting in my freaking way? Like, I've overcome this and this. Was there that moment, or was it just kind of everything that came by? It was just like, hey, it's the next thing.
I think when I probably had lost about 30 pounds, and then that was probably the first benchmark of, oh my gosh, this is working. And I was so scared. When I first started doing this again, a little over a year ago in January, so a year and a half or so, I was scared that I'd never be able to do a jumping jack again or a sit-up again. Like, legit was worried that it was gonna not work. And I warned Jordan, look, if there's ever times when I have to cancel or stop, and then here we are a year and a half later, where basically I've never canceled a session. I deal with some insomnia, so unless I've had problems sleeping, it's rare that I would miss an H4 session. So then I would say about July of last summer, just hitting workouts here where it was like, I wanna go sprint a little bit on the turf. And you feel that your body looks more sporty and athletic, and people are commenting, and then you guys were so good about positive affirmations, and all that stuff led to the momentum that a lot of people who go on a new fitness journey, I think, experience. But then you've got to come down from that high and reach a point where you're like, okay, I legit don't want to be living the life of somebody that's having leftover pizza and ice cream for breakfast anymore. And so arriving at that point where you're making so many good choices. And it's funny because as I think about the question, where would you eat if you could only have one place to eat forever? I'm such a huge fan of cheeseburgers and French fries. I love them so much. Like, that's probably my favorite meal. But if I told you the truth about where I would eat every day, the answer would probably be, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, would be Whole Foods. Just like the food bar at Whole Foods, because that's the kind of stuff that more often than not now I'm kind of drawn to want to eat.
That's awesome. And it sounds like a common thread here is mindset, and then having that burning desire to get a desired outcome, which in your case was, I don't want to be that person at that party. I don't want to live my life this way. I need a change. And it sounds like that was kind of a big part of the success.
Yeah, having really low self-esteem at that point in my life, but then also so fearful that I was going to stay sick, that maybe I'd get an immune response. There's some really solid data on the immune benefits of doing this regularly. So there were different motivators, right, that all kind of fed together. It feels great to feel like you look better now, and that's the sort of vanity side of it. But that's important too. They all tie in. So,
what do you do about those times? We all have those where you know you're going to go to the gym, but you just maybe don't want to. Whether you're tired, just not feeling it that day. When that happens for you, which I'm sure it has, what gets you to be like, you know what, well, I got to get this out of I got to get there.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work for you?
So there's a happiness expert named Arthur Brooks. Dr. Arthur Brooks is at Harvard. He's a great guy. He has a podcast. He's got a new book out called From Strength to Strength. And one of the things that he talks about that I wasn't keen to until I heard him mention it maybe 6 weeks ago on a different podcast is opposite signal strategy. You ever heard of this?
I have not. No.
So opposite signal strategy is like the George Costanza from Seinfeld of doing the opposite. And so OSS is when your body's telling you one thing. Often the best outcome is when you do the opposite. You don't want to wash the dishes. Your compulsion is to sit on the couch, but you force yourself to wash the dishes. And what actually ends up happening is you feel much better about your clean kitchen when you do that. So I can't tell you the number of times that OSS, looking back, has played a part in sessions here. The best workouts I've often had at age 4 have been where it's 5 to 9, I'm crawling in going, this is gonna suck. And then 5-6 minutes in, your body's amped and you're going, this is the best workout I've ever had in my life.
Gosh,
so,
that's great.
Yeah, so OSS is a really, really helpful thing that people could look at that I think has made a huge difference in my life. Of that compulsion to want to be sedentary or just grab the chips or grab the candy has become deliberately, all right, right now I need to go take a walk. And then the walk isn't something that feels forced, it feels amazing, right? So, and I have a couple practical things. Can I just offer a couple practical things that have helped for me?
This is all about...
Yeah. So the first thing is I got a really good stainless steel cup. Whether that's a Yeti or a Zach or something like it. And I'm an ice water person. I love a lot of ice. So I just kind of always have with me, and I'm not someone that measures my water consumption, but that's my beverage of choice and has been for a long time. That's number one. The second thing I have is I have a really good lunchbox. Like, it's nothing that was terribly expensive, but it's a large lunchbox with ice packs that I put in, and I pretty much pack the same lunch every day. And I love my lunches now. And that has replaced what for many, many years was, all right, it's lunchtime, let's go find the best fast food place we can. And so I would say those are two of the things that have made a huge difference. And as I've said before, little walks can make a huge difference. So a 10-minute walk after a meal or an evening walk, even if you've worked out.
And really that's just trying to even just move, right? You're not trying to sit there and break records walking. You're just trying to get yourself out.
It's absolutely pleasurable. I'm never sore from it. That's the other advantage of it. I can do it for hours and hours and hours. But sometimes it's just a 10-minute walk, maybe to try to lower blood sugar a little bit. I had a real bad problem with sugars. I had way too many sugars in my life, and so trying to reduce that significantly. I've had a pretty significant reduction in sugar consumption over the last year and a half. But those deliberate things, those are two resources that, believe it or not, are huge, play a huge part for me. I'm in the car, and if the lunchbox is sitting right in the passenger seat, and you have a bad moment, you can reach in and grab something that's better for you than a taco, right?
And you're
fast food taco.
You're packing it, right? It's your own food that you're making, or you buy things and just kind of put it in there.
No, I pack a really simple lunch every day. And again, OSS would tell you, man, I'm running late for work. I don't want to pack the lunchbox. But you get good at it, and you realize it in 3 minutes. So I'd rather be 3 minutes late to work than skip that step. So there's a morning smoothie. We've talked a lot about smoothies, and then the lunchbox and that lunch are kind of key things that have worked for me.
So, as we kind of wrap up here a little bit, what now is a roadblock for you? What is now, as you continue on, kind of getting in the way that you got to get yourself through?
I think that the most obvious roadblock for me is you get greedy about wanting to have a perfect physique. And I've lost now 90 pounds, and I don't have a perfect physique. I'm 51. I'm never going to have a perfect physique. And coming to terms with letting go of the vanity and focusing on the health side of it, and knowing that you look good, but that you're not going to look like you looked when you were in your 30s.
We're our toughest critic too,
right?
Yeah.
And then you have an incredible community here, because there really are people of all different ages, sizes, and shapes, and they care about one another. And you never stress the sort of physical appearance side of it. That's kind of a side benefit, right? So that's one of the biggest obstacles, is not getting greedy about, hey, why can't I get this last 10 pounds off?
I think everyone can probably feel you on this,
Yeah, why
right?
can't I get the last 10 pounds off? Why am I skinny fat now? And so I'm this kind of string bean that still has kind of a muffin top, and I have to be not my worst critic, but my biggest supporter. And that doesn't come easily for me. And then the other obstacle is when you reach kind of a weight plateau and you're comfortable generally with where your weight loss is at, how do you then not slowly creep up and put pounds back on? And so one of the things that's been really good the last 4 or 5 months is being in kind of a steady state of my weight has stayed about the same, give or take a couple pounds. And that's really difficult to do. That's actually, for people that have been on a weight loss journey before, that's actually the hardest part, is when you reach that point or when you start to have slip-ups. I haven't had a lot of slip-ups because there's a lot of foods that are really off limits for me now. But that steady state maintenance is a really hard puzzle to solve.
It is, for sure.
And movement is key. You know, you guys talk about it so much, but like the benefits of maybe building a little bit more muscle and being consistent with moving are huge in trying to offset that.
Well, Phil, this has been awesome. Hopefully the rest of the H4 community enjoyed getting a little bit more about your journey, and maybe they can relate to it. If not, they got to learn a little bit more about one of their fellow H4 community members. Again, this is real clients, real stories. We're going to hope to bring this to you on a monthly basis, and look for our next client success story and journey, which is going to be Tiffany Casper from our Geneva gym.